Good morning and welcome to the first AT Talk of 2022. This morning we have Tyler Gross. Tyler is a departmental technician for Michigan Rehabilitation Services and provides support in data tracking and reporting, production of online events, and project management. Additionally, Tyler works as the media editor for the academic journal Production and Operations Management Society. Tyler acquired a Master of Public Affairs degree from the University of Wisconsin, where he studied policy, economics, and technology prior to working for MRS. While at the University of Wisconsin, Tyler was awarded the 2019 Peoria Prize for the best paper in science and public policy. Tyler lives in Lansing, where he enjoys playing soccer, reading, and of course, all things computers. If you would like a sketch or a certificate of completion from this webinar, please email me and I'll put my email in the chat box. Okay, Tyler, they're all yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Diane. As Diane mentioned, I am Tyler Gross. I work for Michigan Rehabilitation Services with the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity in Michigan. And on a day-to-day basis, I provide my team a variety of tech support roles from, as Diane mentioned, like data tracking, but more broadly, any technology question that our team has in our division usually comes to me first. So I'm well versed in helping various folks, professionals navigate work in an online environment. We all know whether you're a student right now or you're employed somewhere or you're looking for employment, probably a significant portion of the work you're doing is taking place on a computer. Even if you're not working remotely, if you're going into an office, most jobs today require some familiarity with computers and working on a computer. So today in my presentation, I have the objectives of increasing knowledge and strategies to be more organized, increase information recall, and reduce anxiety when managing online work. I'm going to try to increase your awareness of tools, applications, and extensions that will make online organization more manageable. And then last, I will provide answers to some of the most common questions that I face in my position from the people that I work with in my various roles about working in an online workplace and in online collaborative environments. So our agenda for today is sort of a smorgasbord, a medley of tips and tricks for working on a computer and how to stay organized and productive. So first, we're going to talk about organization. That includes organization of files, of your schedule, and of save locations on your computer. And then we'll talk about some applications and extensions that you might find useful in your work in your day-to-day. And then, like I said, address some common questions that I face in my role. Because the variety of topics I'm going to cover is great. It is a great variety of things that I'm going to talk about. I'm glad this is being recorded, and hopefully the recording will be provided to you after in case you need to review anything if you want to implement any of these strategies into your work. So first, let's talk about file organization. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between this PowerPoint and demonstrating what I'm talking about. So first, with file organization, there is a disorganized and an organized way of naming files on your computer. And it has a really great effect on what you're able to find from your past work and what you're able to recall where things are on your computer and pull them up readily. So first, I want to talk about a simple file naming format that will increase your productivity and ability to find past files. So in the example of the organized naming format, which I'll show in a moment, is the full year, the full month, the full day, and then a description of the file. And I'll show why it's useful to organize file names this way. So I'm going to exit the PowerPoint for the first time. And first, I'm going to show a couple of examples of how people commonly organize their files. And I will claim that this is, although there's no technically incorrect way, that this is a disorganized way to name files on your computer, and it will leave you often searching without success for past files or digging for minutes, hours trying to find a particular file. This is probably the most common way here, as you can see on my screen, that people name files. So it's just a simple name. And a lot of the time you receive a file, whether it's through an email or you download it from an online source, and it comes with a file name. a lot of the time people don't touch those file names, or they might rename it to something that makes sense to them, just a simple name. You can see it sorts alphabetically when you're looking at the files in your file explorer. But notice that some things that are like each other don't get paired with each other. So you can see like the first draft of an MOU is separated from the second draft of an MOU because it's sorting alphabetically. It's really the order that these files will be presented is entirely dependent upon how you chose to name it at that time. So if you want to find a file that is old and you named it in this way, just with a description of the file, it will be incumbent upon you to recall exactly what that file name was in order for you to find the file, which can be a challenge. So that's example one of how I would recommend not to name files. Example number two, which you see some moving towards improvement here in organization, is it does put a date before each file name. These are the same list of files we saw in that first example, except it leads with the month, which is standard, right? When we write dates, at least the US syntax is month, day, year. And oftentimes if it's the month or the day is a single digit, we don't put that 0408 2019. So there are some problems with this. First, notice that that the years are jumbled. So if you're looking for a chronological log of the files you've been working on in your past on a given topic, this would probably take place in a folder, like a grouped folder, like for a specific project, right? So if you were looking for a chronological listing of what you've been working on, it jumbles the years because it's sorting by that month first. So you'll see it's 2022 here, it moves to 2021, and then 2019, just because it's sorting by that month. So a lot of people try to organize their files this way by naming it with the date. But again, you can see it causes some problems in how your computer treats the organization of these files. So last, let's look at how I would recommend naming files. Start with the year and then put month and date and make sure it's always 2 digits. So that way, if it's a day, or excuse me, if it's a month and a day, even if it's 4/8, like in this case, you have 0408. Notice now, not only does it sort your files chronologically by the file name, it sorts them in a uniform way. You can see that the years all match each other down the list, the months all match each other down the list, and the days all match each other down the list. This will provide your files in an easy to understand, easy to read way that is uniformly presented down a list so that you can look at it and it's easy to ascertain what you've been working on most recently and work your way backward based on the date that you named the file. And then after I do put a description of the file, just like we'd see in that first example. So just a simple, you don't have to follow this syntax exactly like I recommend here, but just be thinking about how you're naming files, because this will help you in your ability to find past files. So that is the first thing that I wanted to raise. So back to the PowerPoint here. We'll jump to the second topic, which is organization of schedule. This is a big one. I'm going to use Outlook for my example. Most people use a calendar of some type on their computer. If you're still using a paper calendar, more power to you. But most organizations now have shared online calendars, the most common of which is Outlook. So I'm going to go to an Outlook calendar and show you some strategies on how to organize this. So this is an example of an Outlook calendar that I'm looking at now. This isn't my real schedule here. I just made this up to demonstrate for today. Notice that it's color coded. I highly recommend that you categorize your schedule based on the nature of the meeting. So I'll show you what this means. If I were going to create an event here or a meeting or whatever on my calendar, you'll see that Outlook has this categorize option on the menu. If you click categorize, and then I'm going to open all categories so you can see the categories I've created in Outlook. I have meetings that are in person, meetings that are virtual, non-work notes. So, maybe personal appointments, you got to take the kids somewhere, you have family obligations, whatever. Optional, reminder, and urgent. You can organize these categories based on what makes sense in your day-to-day, but that is the basic idea. So that way, when you're looking at your calendar, it is immediately visible based on the color, even if you don't remember the exact specifics of each meeting, looking at the calendar on a week or on a daily basis, you know what to expect for that day. So for me here today, using my color coding system on Thursday, I would have one virtual call in the morning, another virtual call right now that I'm participating in. And then looking ahead, I know this afternoon, I have a couple non-work related things to do and one in-person meeting. So just color coding alone can help you organize the types of meetings that you're going to have to deal with on any given day. And it helps you prioritize as well. So I know that I have an in-person meeting here because I've colored it green. So I know probably, and I better leave that hour before that in-person meeting open because it's going to require travel to that meeting and so on. Another thing I wanted to raise on schedule, and I see this mistake very common in state of Michigan work, is that when you create a meeting, especially if it's a virtual meeting, make sure you're putting the purpose of that meeting for yourself and for others. So in this example, in work group A, in the meeting description, it is good to put a purpose. So state why the group is meeting, what the objectives are, what the questions are at hand. So you could say group will resolve the issue of whatever, an MOU we're working on. Question 1, and then you can put what the questions are, the objectives for that meeting, and then put the link to join the meeting. So that way, if you can't remember prior to a certain meeting, I'm sure we've all been there, right? I've been there, where you're going into a meeting and you're thinking, gosh, why are we meeting in this again? I can't remember. What are my responsibilities for this meeting? All it takes is for when you create the meeting, whoever creates the meeting, to simply state the purpose on that calendar invite. So that way everyone will know. And it's useful when you send that to other people too, so that when they receive it, they know exactly why they're meeting beyond just the title, that it's a work group meeting. So those are my two big pieces of recommendation in terms of organization of schedule. Use categorization, use the color coding system to organize the types of meetings that you're working with, and then be descriptive in the meeting listing so that you and others can know. It increases the recall memory to be able to know what you're going to work on in a given meeting, and hopefully reduces some anxiety about feeling like you're flying by the seat of your pants or improvising by knowing exactly what you have to do in each meeting and your obligations. So I'm going to move back to the slideshow here. So we've talked briefly about organization of files and schedules and some of the strategies you can employ in those areas. Next, I would like to talk about about save locations. So save locations by default on your computer, whether you're on a desktop or a laptop, you're usually saving on your hard drive. I'm not going to bog us down with overly technical jargon here, but a hard drive is simply a storage location that exists on your computer. If you have a desktop, it's sitting in the tower of your desktop. It's an actual device that sits in there that is the hard drive. If you're on a laptop, it's in the bottom part, not the screen. A hard drive sits in there. And that's what you're saving on when you save in My Computer, My Documents, Downloads. All of these folders are sitting on your hard drive. However, it's very important that you have some system of redundancy. Now, if you work, depending on your organization that you're working in or how you have your computer set up, some entities like me with State of Michigan will have this redundancy set up for them. State of Michigan uses OneDrive and everything is automatically backed up. If you're not sure about this, you should be checking, because the risk of a save location just being on the hard drive is that if anything happens to your computer, you get a virus, your hard drive ceases to work, it happens. Whatever, your hard drive wipes itself, that happens sometimes accidentally. You will lose everything that sits on your hard drive. And unless you have a restore state somewhere and know how to do that, or take it to a professional that you'll have to pay to recover a hard drive, those files are just gone. And sometimes you will not be able to recover them at all. So it's important to back up the files that are sitting on your computer in other locations. Sometimes you'll hear this referred to as cloud storage or external storage. I'll show you how I do it on my computer here through the File Explorer. So on my computer, you can see that under Devices and Drives, your local disk, that's what your computer calls your hard drive or your C drive. So that's my hard drive. And you'll see I also have another one here. This is an external hard drive. So it's a small device that sits to the side of my computer, connects with a USB drive. They're much less expensive than they used to be. You can get a very large one now for 40, 50 bucks. That will back up, unless you're doing like regular video work or something, it'll back up everything you need and then some. And once a week on Friday, I will take my documents folder, which is primarily what I'm working in. I'll copy it. I'll go to my external hard drive and I'll paste it. And it'll prompt you, do you want to overwrite files? Because some of the files I've backed up in the past will still be there. I'll just hit yes to all. And then it backs up my entire documents folder onto my external hard drive. That way, if there's ever anything that happens to my computer and I lose access to my hard drive file saves, I have a backup. And all I have to do is go to my external hard drive, go to my backed up documents folder and find what it is that I'm looking for. Or I can take my entire previous backup of my documents folder and bring it back over to my hard drive. Like I said, I would recommend doing this at least once a week, usually on Friday. Sometimes it takes a while to back that up. And that way, if something ever does happen to your computer, you lose at most 1 week of work rather than losing everything that's on your computer. So it's really important to be backing it up. If you don't want to use an external hard drive, there are some other options that exist online where you don't even need a device to use them, such as Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. I'm not going to demonstrate that here today. I can show you how Google Drive looks quickly. So this is a Google Drive page. All you need to do is create a Google account. And I would check with your organizational settings. If you have an employer right now, make sure that this is okay to be doing to backing up to a Google Drive, because sometimes there are security, privacy settings, especially if you're dealing with confidential information that you'll want to consider. I'm going to just set all that to the side and say, work that out with your own organization's IT team and figure out what's appropriate. But assuming that it is okay to do, all you have to do is have a Google account and go to Google Drive, which is drive.google.com. And then you can back things up. So if I wanted to upload a folder here, I can hit new upload, folder upload. And again, I'm just selecting my documents folder. So I could go to this PC and then I could choose my entire documents folder and click upload. And that'll back up my documents folder to my Google Drive. Again, do that once a week on a Friday, maybe Friday afternoon. And that way you have everything you've been working on backed up to a Google Drive. If anything ever happens to your computer, you can log into Google Drive through a web browser, download that documents folder, and you're back in business. Okay, let's jump back to the PowerPoint here. So we have covered on our agenda organization of files, some tips to organize your schedule in a way that makes sense to you and can increase recall and productivity and clarity for yourself and other people. Some save locations, the importance of not just saving everything to your hard drive and only your hard drive. So moving beyond organizations, I would like to talk about applications and extensions. So an application or an app, I'm sure you're aware, it's a program that runs on your computer that accomplishes some task. I'm in PowerPoint right now. That is an application. An extension is something that you can download that complements an application. So what I'm going to show today, extensions usually take place through web browsers. So you can download extensions I use Google Chrome, but if you're using Internet Explorer, wouldn't recommend Explorer for various reasons, or Microsoft Edge or Mozilla Firefox, these all have extensions that you can download, and they complement your web browser in various ways that is going to help you stay organized in your work, in your study, and whatever you're doing task-oriented on a computer. So the applications that I would like to show you today, I'm going to show an application that will increase proficiency in typing and in grammatical structure and in spelling. That's called Grammarly. I'm going to show a handful of applications that increase productivity in memory, Evernote, Todoist, LastPass, and Sticky Notes. And then just a couple miscellaneous tools that I would recommend and that I find myself using on a regular basis, which would include AdBlock and Tini. So to do so, I am going to exit the PowerPoint, and I'm going to show you each of these applications and what they do and how people commonly use them. And hopefully it'll demonstrate why you might want to use them in your workplace and kind of showcase their potential. So starting with Grammarly, I'm going to start out by showing you how to add an extension, because Grammarly is an extension. I think there is an application version of it as well, but I use the extension version. So I'm in Google Chrome, as I mentioned here. Google Chrome has a web store. So it's chrome.google.com/web store. You can also get to it by a couple different ways through the web browser itself. You can go to, if you go to the Chrome menu and then you go to, there's somewhere here. Oh, it's the extensions button, excuse me, extensions. And then you can manage extensions and get to the Chrome store that way and manage what extensions you do have. But you'll see on the Chrome extension page, a lot of these are not work related, like games. You see like a Farmville thing here. I think this is a game too. But a lot of them can greatly increase what your computer can do and your productivity with work. So I'm going to type in Grammarly in the web store and you'll see Grammarly for Chrome. I already have it installed. So if I didn't, this would say add to Chrome right here. And you click that button, that's it, you're done. Chrome does everything else for you. It installs Grammarly, sets it up. And then you'll see up here on your toolbar in Chrome, these are my extensions that I have active. And you can see Grammarly is active. So I'm going to demonstrate what Grammarly does here by typing into a Google Word doc. Grammarly is a spell checker, first of all, that would exist in, say, like Microsoft Word, or Google Docs has a spell checker too. But if we say like, this word is spelled incorrectly, you'll notice that Grammarly, and Grammarly takes a second, it runs a little bit behind what you're typing, but it will start catching mistakes. And you'll see, I misspelled this, I misspelled incorrectly. And Grammarly functions everywhere in a web browser. So even if the page you're working on, whether it's a form or you're posting a status on Facebook, whatever you're doing, Grammarly is going to run through your text and act as that spell check, even if the page itself doesn't have a spell checker, which, you know, I've encountered that some pages don't have spell check. And it's really jarring when you're used to having a spell checker behind you. I know personally, I'm not a great speller. And I sometimes type faster than I probably should. And so I'm making typos. Grammarly catches these things as you go. Beyond just being a spell checker, though, this is where Grammarly really shines, is it is a grammar checker. And it's better than like the Microsoft Word grammar checker. It's really high functioning. So just like an example could be like 40 is greater than 30. And you let Grammarly read the sentence over, and Grammarly is comparing it to what comes before and what comes after it. And that's where it really outshines existing spell checkers, like in Microsoft Word or something, that it checks sentence syntax and compares things above and below inside paragraphs and in writing, so it can get context for what you're writing, and then provides recommendations to make your writing better based on grammar, based on sentence structure, based on word choice. So you'll see here in this sentence that, let me zoom in a little bit, that it's recommending that I change then to than, because than is the comparison word between the two. So I would recommend to download Grammarly. It doesn't hurt to have this running in the background. I run it on everything that I'm doing. So Grammarly, great tool, highly recommend. Let's see next product here. And just so you know, everything I'm showing you here today is free. There are like paid versions of some of these things that will increase the feature set, but I'm not, and I don't work for or with promotion of any of these companies. These are just things that I've found useful in my work and that I recommend to other people, and they're all free to access. So next we have Evernote. So Evernote is a complete note-taking application. Evernote is not an extension, it is an application. So I'm going to go back to my desktop here, and you'll see I have Evernote right here. And if I open Evernote, let it think for a second. There we go. Evernote will expedite your ability to take notes no matter what you're doing. So you'll see on the notebook tab over here, you can create various notebooks. So maybe you have, and these are categories of notes. So maybe you have division meetings, maybe you have a work group that you're participating in, you can add that to these notebooks. And then inside the notebooks, you can take notes. So it's really straightforward. If I wanted to take a new note inside of this notebook that I'm working on, I can click, oh, that's going to ask me to create a new notebook. Let's see here. Let me go back to the notebook home here. There we go. If I wanted to create a new note, you can see what I just did there. I clicked this new button and then create new note. This is where Evernote really shines. One of the areas is it's going to provide you with templates or with formats for pages for you to take notes. And some of the most common ones that Evernote will recommend to you is a to-do list, meeting notes, project plan, essay outline. So these are some of the most common ways in which we take notes in our study and our work. So if I click meeting notes, you'll see it organizes the page like a standard meeting notes page. And you can put the title in here, date, time, goal. It starts making up a little attendees list. And you'll see, and then you can say who was there in the meeting. You can form agendas, and then you can take notes throughout the meeting. Has an action item section. This is all customizable. This works just like if you were in like Microsoft Word, where you can customize this all however you want it. It's just providing you a default template. I'll show you what a couple other ones look like here. If we wanted to do a project plan, you can see that it creates it for you. What are you trying to accomplish? Your summary. What are some of the major milestones you want to accomplish? And then it breaks down a grid for you here. And it will color coordinate based on the little legend here below and the tasks and what you want to accomplish within a given timeline of your project. So very helpful in getting started on projects and organizing thoughts and taking notes in meetings. And maybe you need to write something like an essay or a proposal, something like that. Essay outline, you know, just like they taught us in school, introduction, body, conclusion, but it's good to get a structured template for you to organize your thoughts in this way. Some other things that Evernote can do. First of all, Evernote, you log into Evernote with an account that you create, again, for free. But what this allows you to do is go across devices. So let's say I have this computer that I work on at home. I have my cell phone that I also work on, and I have a computer in my office that I sometimes work on. If I log into Evernote on any of those devices, all this is going to show up. It syncs with your account so that you don't need to share files between your devices or anything like that. Your notes, it keeps everything there. You can export any of these things. So if you want to turn it into a Word doc or a PDF out of Evernote, you can do so. Another really great thing about Evernote and why I recommend using it is it's called the web clipper. So I'm going to show you how that works now. I'm dragging over just a random news article. Let's say you're browsing online and you see something that say, oh, I want to read that later, but I don't have time now. Or, oh, this applies to a project that I'm working on. I want to make sure to share that with the group that I'm working with. You can clip this using Evernote and save it to Evernote. So I have an extension. Again, you'd need to download this through that Google Chrome store that I showed you earlier, but it's called the Evernote or Clip to Evernote. And if you click this, it's going to ask you, how would you like to save the article? The full page, just the article, or simplified article, which I love simplified article. It removes all the ads, all the videos, all the background web page stuff, and it just saves the text and the pictures that are embedded in the actual article. And then you choose where you want to save it in Evernote. So I'm just going to keep it in that first notebook and save clip. And it just saved. So now if we come over to Evernote, I might need to refresh this notebook. Sometimes it takes just a second to show up. But this article is going to pop up in my notebook as a note that I took. And then you can share that with other people. You can print it, you can export it to a Word doc or a PDF. There it is. And you'll see, there it is. There's the article I just clipped. So a great way, instead of copying and pasting something online or bookmarking it through a web page or saving the URL or anything like that, you just take what you need, you flip it into Evernote, and then it's saved for you in that workbook. Okay, next. Those are the big ones, and the ones with a rich feature set, Grammarly and Evernote. The next ones that I'm going to go through are very simple, but still highly recommended. And I just want to make sure that you are aware that such tools like this are out there for you to utilize. So Todoist, excuse me. Todoist is an extension that exists inside of a web browser. You can see it. This is Todoist up here. You download the extension through the Chrome Web Store. And if you click it, it's a simple to-do list. It's very straightforward. If you're one of these people that, and I confess I was, and I occasionally still am, someone that has a notepad sitting by your computer where you're creating hard copy to-do lists, this is for you. Todoist, much like Evernote, you log into it so that it'll sync between devices. And it's just a very simple to-do list organized by day and task. And there's a couple different ways that you can look at your tasks, like inbox. It's just all the tasks listed in order. These are just examples that I used to demonstrate this. So when I'm done presenting here today, I can check that off and it takes it off my list. Just an easy way to have a running list of items that are on your to-do list on computers and shared between devices. And there are alternatives to Todoist. There's a lot of applications and extensions that operate similarly. LastPass. So I'm using this to demonstrate what a password manager is. There's not really a way to demonstrate this, but I just want to make sure that you are aware of what these do. A password manager will create and remember passwords for you. This is something that you should really be careful and make sure that it's in compliance with your organization's security and privacy settings. Like, for example, we can't use password managers with State of Michigan, but I certainly use one on my own personal device, and I would use it with State of Michigan if I could. What it does is you create an account with that password manager, so LastPass, and then all you need to remember is your login to that password manager. And then the password manager takes care of everything else. So when you create an account, say you're creating a Google account and it asks you for a password to create with that account, the password manager will create it for you. And it's going to create a password that's much stronger than an average person will create. You know, it'll be 15, 20 characters long, random with special characters and capitalization and all that stuff. Something that you would never remember off the top of your head and no one could really guess. So they're very secure so long as you do not share your login with that password manager with anyone. You don't write it down, because if that gets compromised, then you know it unlocks everything that is managed by that password manager. So it's, some people describe it as putting your eggs all in one basket. But I think password managers are a little controversial for that reason, but I still recommend them because so long as you are the only person that knows your login to that password manager, it's a very easy way to remember your login information to all the different sites and make sure that your login information is secure and sufficiently complicated and different. I know people reuse passwords between different applications. Maybe you have hidden somewhere in a binder, like a piece of paper with all your login credentials written down on it somewhere. These are not secure ways to go about that. So I would recommend investigating what password managers are available. LastPass is a great free option that operates within all the major web browsers. Sticky notes. I want to talk about an application called Sticky Notes. If you're on a Microsoft device right now, a Windows computer, you have sticky notes. It's part of Microsoft's, well, I guess I should say, it depends on what year your computer and your operating system is from. But sticky notes now comes by default on all Microsoft devices, and it is exactly what it describes. So I'm going to open sticky notes. It allows you to type sticky notes onto your computer. So let's go to my desktop here, sticky notes. If I wanted to create a new sticky note, there it is. It's as simple as that. You can color code them. And these hang on your desktop. like such. And if you have something that you need to make sure you remember on a given day, maybe you're taking notes for a presentation like this and you just want some talking points, sticky notes are a great way to remember these small items such as that. I have an example here that I'll return to later in my presentation here today. Okay, so those are the productivity and memory notes. Just a couple other tools I want to show you. One AdBlock and one Tini. So AdBlock is, let me pull up my my web browser here. You can, I don't know if I have AdBlock showing up here, but I do have it installed. What AdBlock does, let me go to my Chrome web store. You can see that it is an extension. There's AdBlock there. You can see nearly 300,000 downloads. It's very popular. What AdBlock does is it will prevent all pop-up ads and in-website ads from displaying. Simple as that. And it works on a lot of the most popular sites that people use, like YouTube. Tired of seeing those little 15, 30-second ads before videos? Download AdBlock and they're gone. It works very well. It decreases distractions on whatever you're looking at. And it eliminates the chance that you're going to interpret something as part of the web page and click it and be redirected somewhere else without realizing that that was actually an ad that was placed on that website. So AdBlock, great security and productivity tool. And the last is Tini. I think I'm a little pressed for time, so I'm going to skip Tini for now and come back to it if we have time at the end. Okay. So substitute free applications. The purpose of this part of the presentation is not to discourage you from accessing the mainstream paid commercial products that many people use in professional settings, such as the Microsoft Office suite or the Adobe suite. These are great tools. I'm not saying anything is wrong with using them. The purpose of this is just to make folks aware that cost need not be a barrier for those functionalities. So sometimes I'm working with people and they want to be able to do something, develop a certain skill set on a computer, maybe like photo editing or video editing, but they don't want to pay for Adobe Photoshop. You know, those things are costly, and they want to explore and start to develop those skills with a cost-free option. So, and this applies broadly across the internet and computers in general. There are often freeware substitutes for things that will allow you to be productive and contribute to your school, your workplace in creative ways, and will make you a more employable person. And you'd be surprised at how much some of these things can be useful in the workplace. So let's talk about some of these. The Microsoft Office suite. What can you do? Everything, right? It is email, that's Outlook. It's a word processor, that's Microsoft Word. Slides, PowerPoint, which I'm in right now. Spreadsheets, which is Excel. We all know the Microsoft Office suite. It's ubiquitous now in the professional world. But the Microsoft Office suite, depending on the version you're talking about, costs between $70 and $250, depending on whether you want a personal account, professional, or organization-wide account. There is a freeware substitute called LibreOffice. It does everything Microsoft Office suite does. It's totally compatible with Microsoft systems. So LibreOffice, for example, has a spreadsheet program. And if you're working in that spreadsheet program and save something and send it to someone who's working with Microsoft Excel, they can open it in Microsoft Excel. These programs, it saves in the same file syntax, not the exact same, but it's readable by the Microsoft operating system. I know it's a little scary moving away from Microsoft Office, but I just want to make people aware that there are free options for even something as fundamental to professional productivity as the Microsoft Office suite. Some specifics applications that there are freeware options for. Photo editing. So what can you do with photo editing? You can crop photos. You can, so you can see here in this picture of this cat majestically sitting above the city, you can crop out part of the picture. You can remove the background from the picture. You can see I've isolated the cute cat there. You can then add a different background if you want. You can blur the background of photos. You can do a lot more. You can add or remove objects from pictures. You can adjust colors. You can flip across axes. You can add color gradients. Why would you want to do this, and how does it make someone more employable and make someone more productive in their workplace? Well, you can design flyers. You can design logos for your company, marketing materials. Websites utilize images and photos all the time. Presentations like this, you can get exactly the picture that you want and adjust it in ways that you want. Even if you're not working in a position or want to work in a position that is marketing related, these tools are still very useful to have if you're regularly working on a computer. Almost every entity has flyers and marketing materials and a website. So if you can contribute to those things and be self-sufficient in some of those things, help your colleagues out, it will make you a more valuable, more employable person. So photo editing. The commercial product, the main one that people use, is called Photoshop. It's through the Adobe suite. It is an annual subscription of $240 a year. It's an expensive product. There's a freeware substitute called the GNU Image Manipulation Program, or GIMP. You can see its little logo there. Totally free. You can Google right now, download GIMP. It'll be done downloading in 5 minutes, and you'll have a fully functional Photoshop equivalent tool on your computer that can do all the image editing that you would want. And if you're ever looking to get started in these things, to start to develop these skills, I would encourage you to check out one of these freeware options and just start playing around with it. And if you're not sure how to do something, look it up online. There's entire guides. And I found the best way often is YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in, how do I blur a background, for example, in GIMP? And there'll be a video, I assure you, that on YouTube that will show you exactly how to do that with an image in a free program without any cost barriers associated with it. So from photo editing to video editing, why would you want a video edit? Well, what can you do with video editing? You can cut videos, change their lengths, isolate certain parts of the video. You can crop a video. So I'm going to kind of use my hands here. If your video is such, you can shrink the part of the video that you want to keep on the video and reduce the frame. Crop just like you would a picture, but for a video. You can combine multiple videos into a single file. And then you can do some accessibility related things. You can insert titles. Maybe the first time someone talks on a video, you want their name and title to show up. Or you can create caption files that are accurate, that you don't have to rely on YouTube or on Zoom's automatic captioning. We have CART here today, thankfully, so ours are very accurate right now. Thank you, Annette. But these automatic captioning services are often not accurate, the automatically generated caption ones. So if you know how to video edit, you can create custom caption files and make anything that your organization or that you yourself are creating fully accessible from a captioning standpoint. And for what other purposes, you can record meetings or events. You can create promotional materials, maybe a video that sits on your website or that you share with partners. So video editing, there are a couple commercial products that are really popular. Adobe Premiere, you'll see a theme throughout this, is that the Adobe suite is very popular. $240 a year, just like Photoshop. PowerDirector 365, also popular, $55 a year. Or there's a freeware substitute. I chose Shotcut. There are many freeware substitutes for video editors. So Shotcut is what I use. Like I said, I'm a media editor for an academic journal. All the video work that I do is in a freeware program called Shotcut. Totally free. And I taught myself how to use it through YouTube videos, just like I'm describing. So just be aware, these free options are out there. Same with audio editing. If my PowerPoint will advance here, there we go. You can cut, you can adjust volume, you can combine multiple audio clips, you can increase clarity, which is a little bit trickier of a process than those three above it, but you can through creating noise gates, they're called, to make audio clearer and crisper and more understandable. So for what purposes? You can create audio notes for meetings or just for yourself for future reference. You can podcast. Seems like everyone on earth has a podcast these days. That's all done through audio editing. You can add music or sounds to events. You'd be surprised just by adding music to a waiting room for an event, how much that livens up the environment. So audio editing, The commercial product, the most popular one, Adobe Audition, a little more expensive than the other Adobe products, a little over $250 a year. There are freeware substitutes. Audacity is great. I use Audacity in the podcast that I produce. I use it in most of the audio editing that I work. That's the program I work in. Totally free. It can do everything Adobe Audition can do. And then if you're on a Mac, GarageBand comes installed automatically on Macs. And GarageBand's a little bit more oriented toward producing music, but GarageBand does have nearly everything in the audio editing suite that those other programs do as well. But that is Mac specific. There might be a Windows version of GarageBand, so don't quote me on being exclusively Mac. I've never used it on Windows, but that option is there for you. Okay, moving into the last section of the presentation here, wrapping up. What are some of the most common questions I get as a technician for the state of Michigan about issues, questions that arise in the workplace related to technology? And what are the solutions to those questions? So common question 1 of 5. I want to share a file, but it is too large to email. What do I do? Okay, this is really common. Like Outlook, Gmail, Hotmail, they all have maximum file sizes that you can email to other people. So and maybe you have a file that is too large to send in that email, you get an error message letting you know that that file is too large. What can you do? The easiest way to address this, if it works, is called a zipped folder. I'll show you how to create a zipped folder. It is very simple. Let's go to, okay, perfect. The file name example that I was using earlier with date organizations. Pretend like this folder was too large to email. All you have to do is right click on it, hover over send to, and you'll see an option here called compressed zipped folder. If you click that, there it is. That's it. It creates a compressed folder that reduces the file size of that folder and allows you to email it. It'll arrive to the person in what's called a zip file. So when they get it, they'll have to open and unzip that folder. It looks like this if you click on it. Windows has an unzipper built into it called WinZip. I'm using 7-Zip right now, which is just a custom tool that is very similar, but shouldn't be a problem on the other side to open the zip file. And they just open that, and then they can click on the folder, and there you go. There's all the files, and they can extract that or copy it or move them as they need. Zipped folders are useful even beyond reducing file size for organization. Say you want to send someone 15 files. Instead of sending them an email with 15 different files attached to it, put those files in a folder, zip the folder, and send them the zipped folder. That way they get it all in one batch, and they can do with the files what they want, but it's organized for them. There are some other options for this. There are online drives. We saw Google Drive that can share files with people. OneDrive through Microsoft that can share files with people. Some organizations have shared locations, so there'll be a drive that is devoted to the organization, and these are often called the shared drive in various organizations. You can save things to that location as well. So that's some other ways around emailing large files. But if the zipped option works for you and that gets it below that size threshold, that's a nice, easy solution to that question. Okay, common question number 2. I am in a group that is working on a single document. How can we do this efficiently? So instead of all of you having different copies of the same file, emailing back and forth, reconciling differences between different versions of the file that various people have been working on at different times, that is a headache. And that is something that comes up all the time in professional and academic work. There are easy solutions to this. Google Drive, let's take a look. Okay, so in Google Drive, I created a document, also called Google Docs in this part of the online Google suite. Let's pretend like this is the document that I want to work on with 3 other people, and we want to be able to work on the doc at the same time. Actually, at the same time, we can all type on the same document. If someone else were looking at this document and I were to start typing, my text would appear to them in real time. Easy to do through Google Docs. You see this big old share button at the top right. Just have to click that. And then I always use the get a link option that you can share with people directly by listing their email addresses. But I always do get a link, and then just make sure that this permissions tab is set to editor. So whoever you're sharing with has the ability to edit the document. Then you copy the link, and then I would open an email, send the email to those 3 people that you want to share the document with. They just have to click the link and it will open this document. After the first time they open the document, this document will show up in their Google Drive in the shared with me folder. So if that person were then to go with the shared with me folder, that document would be sitting there. So they don't need to go back through their email or find that link to open it again. It's just sitting there on the Google Drive. And then you can collaboratively work on that. And that works the same with Excel documents, with any other thing supported through the Google Drive, which is most file types. Okay, back to my PowerPoint here. Yeah, and there are some other ways to do this. The Microsoft OneDrive works very similarly to Google Drive. And there are some similarly functioning things that will allow people to work on the same document. Common question 3. This is a very easy solution. How do I find my system information? So maybe some IT person, some nerd like me, calls you on the phone and asks you, what operating system are you using? And you think, gosh, I don't know what Windows, right? I don't know. So you can, all you have to do to find anything you need about your computer or your operating system is to, in this type here to search bar, type in system information, and you can see that's an application. You open it, it's going to tell you everything about your computer. It's going to tell you your operating system. It's going to tell you your system name. Sometimes technicians will want to know that if they're helping you with an issue. Or someone in your org will say, what's the name of your system that you're using on the work computer? That's it right there. And you can get, I'm not going to go through all this technical mumbo jumbo here, but you can really find anything you want out about your computer, down to like what drivers you're using, down to like what your storage options are, and anything you need to find out about your computer. Just type system information into that bar and it'll be there. Common question 4, how do I screenshot my display? Okay, so say I'm looking at something, a web page or a picture or an email, and I want to screenshot it. I want to take a picture of what's currently on my computer. How do I do that? There's a command in Windows. It's called Alt Print Screen. So if I hold Alt and hit Print Screen, which is to the right of F12 on most keyboards, that copied a screenshot. It doesn't look like it did anything on my computer right now, but say I open up Paint and I'm going to paste this. I'm going to use the command here, Control V. And there you go. There's the screenshot that I just took. And now it's sitting in Paint. You could copy and paste that with that same command, the Alt Print Screen, into an email, into a Word doc you're working on. Alternatively, if you don't want to use the command or you want to capture a part of your screen, you can use the snipping tool. Most people are familiar with this. It's on Microsoft by default. It's called Snipping Tool. You just open that up, click New, and then you're selecting what you want to snip or take a picture of. So say I wanted to do, I actually don't know if it's going to show this on the screen share. If I wanted to take a picture of just that slide there, I just selected it with the snipping tool, and there it is. Now I can save it, or now I can copy and paste it wherever I need that picture to be. So 2 very easy, straightforward solutions to how do I screenshot. Same thing on a Windows, except the command is a little different. Shift Command 4 is the default on Mac. Okay, last question here, wrapping up. What are the most useful keyboard shortcuts? So Windows and Mac, although instead on a Mac, there's no control key, it's a command key. But other than that, they actually tended to copy exactly what Microsoft did. Apple's really good at copying things. Don't get me started. But so these will be the same on a Mac, except instead of control, it'll be command. And all you need, there's a wide range of these. There's tens of them. And it is, I'm not asking anyone to, go rote memorization or flashcards or anything to learn these things, but anything that you can learn and implement into your daily work as a command, instead of searching for that option on some menu in an application you're working on, it will save you time. It might not seem like it much in any one given instant, saves you 10 seconds here, 20 seconds there, but over time, the cumulative effect of using commands like this will make you a more productive person, worker, student while on a computer. So just some critical ones that I want to draw attention to: undo, Control Z. So Control Z will undo whatever your last action was on a Microsoft system. A lot of the time, like in Microsoft Word, this will be at the top, and there'll be a little like backward circly squiggly arrow to like undo your last action. But some applications don't present you with that button, and you might accidentally delete something or change something, and you're like, oh my gosh, that just changed my whole document that I was working on or a file that I was working on. I don't see an undo button. What do? I have to recreate this whole thing? No, you can just hit Control Z, it'll undo your last action. And then the other one I want to draw attention to is the switch apps. So if you hit Alt Tab, if you hold Alt and then hit Tab, it'll cycle through your recently used windows. So if you're bouncing back and forth between two different applications, say I was switching between my web browser and my PowerPoint, all I have to do is hit Alt Tab, and that will take me back and forth between those applications. It's a lot quicker and easier once you internalize, this is how I do it with Alt Tab, to do that than to manually switch between. And there's all sorts of stuff like that, like Control Alt, how to select multiple options. So like if you want to select multiple things that aren't right next to each other in a Word document or something like that, there's all sorts of commands for things like that that you can do in Windows that will help you out. And maybe an implementation of the sticky notes that I showed earlier, you can put a handful that you want to implement into your daily work and throw them on a sticky note and just start with the basics. Start with, I'm going to start using Control Z for undo and Control F for find. So if I want to find something in a document, I can hit Control F and it's going to say, what do you want to find? Like just for example, if I wanted to find desktop, it's going to find that in whatever I'm looking at. So easy way to, instead of reading through a whole document looking for one particular thing, pull up the find function and find it. And then Control Z for undo, and just keep that sticky note there on your computer and start to teach yourself these commands, because they will help out in the long run and make you a quicker, more efficient worker or student, or just user of a computer. Not everything we do on computer is work related or school related. Okay, that concludes my presentation. How am I doing on time? That's pretty good on time there. So I'm not going to jump back to Tini, that item that we skipped over earlier. And I'll just end by saying we went through organization of files, schedule, and save locations. We talked about some applications and extensions that might be useful in your work or in your study. And then we addressed some common questions that I face as a technician with the state. There's my contact information. Happy to send any materials that I covered here, a link to anything I talked about. If you want to ask any questions, please, I know we have a chat and a Q&A now, so I'm happy to accept questions now, or you can reach out to me after the fact.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I actually have great sympathy for anybody who missed this session, because I feel like I learned so much, and I've been working on computers forever, since they brought one into my office years ago. So I want to say too, to remind you all that some of this goes by, at least for me, very quickly, even with paying great attention. If you go to our YouTube channel, which is listed above in the chat, or you go into YouTube and type MI-UCP, you'll be able to review this, stop it at different points, try different things, because it does go by so quickly that I think that the opportunity to review it would be very useful. So important, because I'm definitely going to be doing that, Tyler. I wanted to read to you that people are saying how great the information is, talking about keyboard shortcuts also being easier on your hands than reaching back and forth to the mouse, especially if you have things like carpal tunnel syndrome. So just a lot of raving going on over here, in case you're not looking at that. So thank you so much for everything you brought to us today. It was a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate it. I'm going to talk a little bit now about AT on the job, which we're going to talk about next month. Amy Hayes is an occupational safety advisor with the Business Network Division of Michigan Rehabilitation Services. Her professional interests focus on ergonomics, workstation design, task chair evaluations, job analysis, and assistive technology evaluations. Renee Lyon is the on-site occupational therapist at Michigan Career and Technical Institute. Her professional interests focus on accommodation support for transition youth, participating in training and employment, and providing support to local companies during the hiring or retention process of employees. Assistive technology can be a very powerful tool to help individuals with disabilities to be trained for a job, obtain employment, or to retain their job. This presentation will discuss how job accommodations are addressed under the Americans with Disabilities Act to help bridge the gap between a worker's disability-related limitations and the essential functions of the job. Please join us on February 10th at 10 a.m. to learn about AT on the job. And thank you for sharing this information with us today.
Thank you so much, Tyler. It was wonderful. Thanks everyone for attending. Hopefully we'll see you in February. Take good care.
Bye, everyone.